everybody, I'm Liz. It's been a while because I got a new job that took up a lot of time, but I'm back to talk about 20 books that are released in the year 2020, this year, that I am super stoked for. As I'm late to posting this, some of these books have already come out, but we're gonna talk about them anyway. All of these books are listed based upon debut date, not which one I'm most excited for, because we'll be honest, we all know which book I'm most excited for because I've talked about it several times. So we'll just get right to it. The first book is Dear Edward by Anne Napolitano. If I say any of these names wrong, I apologize. I'm not meaning to butcher names. It happens because I'm not the best at pronunciation. So anyway, Dear Edward comes out January 6th, so it's already there for your hands to grab. It is about a 12-year-old boy named Edward who is the sole survivor of a plane crash and must cope with his survivor's guilt and also learn how to move on from the trauma of this plane crash incident, and it sounds fantastic. The second book is Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. This was released January 7th. It is her debut story. It's been talked about a lot in the book social media circuits, and I definitely understand why. Not only is the cover stunning, but the premise just sounds so interesting. It takes place with a woman named Ximena, who's the decoy Condessa in her kingdom, and the kingdom's usurper demands for the Condessa's hand in marriage. Ximena takes her place and marries the leader, the usurper, and uses her knowledge in his presence to send messages to the rebel resistance. She does so by weaving these messages in tapestries, which sounds so cool. The third book was also released quite recently. It was Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera. This was released January 14th, and I can't wait. I have loved every single contemporary story of Adam Silvera. This is his first urban fantasy novel, and I can't wait. I hope I love it just as much as I loved all of his other stories. It takes place with two brothers, Brighton and Emil. They wish to be spellwalkers, which are vigilantes with powers that stop specters. And specters are people that steal the essence of endangered magical creatures, so they have powers themselves. And they really just want to keep the peace, keep the fighting. However, Emil is the only one of the two that manifests powers of himself so that he can join the Spellwalkers, and it leaves his other brother Brighton behind. It's going to be a story about betrayal, about brotherly love and family love, and how to overcome obstacles, especially when one succeeds when the other one doesn't. The fourth book is American Dirt by Janine Cummings. This one's released January 21st, and this one's also one that has been talked about a lot in the book social media industry. It's a book that talks a lot about the immigration climate in Central America into the United States, and our main character, Lydia, her husband publishes a tell-all of the cartel leader in their Mexican city, and so her whole family must flee for safety, and they hope to travel north to the US, the only place outside their cartel's reach, in order to be safe with her and her husband and her children. And it just sounds so devastatingly amazing. The fifth book is The King of Crows by Libba Bray. It is gonna be definitely my most anticipated release. This is released February 4th. It is the fourth book, the conclusion of the Diviners series, and I can't wait. The Diviners series takes place in New York City, where There's diviners. They're teenagers with special abilities. Our main character, Evie, she has premonitions when she touches objects, so she gains insight into its owner's past and histories. And it has a smorgasbord of so many other characters. Diversity. We have gay characters, lesbian characters, bisexual characters, asexual characters. They're everywhere in the story, and it's amazing. The 6th book is The Illness Lesson by Claire Beams. This is released February 6th. It takes place in a dystopian time frame where there's this school for women, and a mysterious flock of red birds descend over Birch Hill, which is the school for students of a progressive female school, and these female students begin to grow ill one by one, and as the girls worsen, they're only female teacher as men are the predominant teachers, leaders, and authorities of this society. The one female teacher really confronts the male authorities in order to protect these girls that are falling ill. The 7th is The Other Misses by Mary Kubica. This is released February 18th, and it sounds just such an interesting mystery. It's a family moving into a small town in Maine, and their neighbors are murdered. The mother, Sadie, begins investigating this neighbor's murder and death, and trudges up a lot of things that are probably left hidden, especially in relation to the house she's living in and her family from this small town. And the town starts suspecting this new family as causing this townsperson's death. The 8th book is The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. I am so stoked about this. I read the first chapter a couple months ago, and I'm so stoked. It comes out February 25th, and it's about a girl named Alessandra who wants power, and she is intended to gain it by usurping the king of her kingdom, and she does so in the most cunning and conniving way. She decides to put everything she can into marrying this Shadow King and then killing him so she can take the kingdom for herself. Obviously, there's a sitch, and that is that she has to protect this king from all the other usurpers in order to secure her shot at the throne. The 9th book is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is another one that has been talked about. It's the debut story of this author. It's released March 10th, and it just sounds so juicy and so heart-wrenching, and really just has a great discussion about rape culture, victim thought processes, and in a way how victims rationalize things to where they don't think that they're a victim. It takes place in 2 different time periods. We have the year 2000, where our main character Vanessa becomes entangled in an affair with her English professor. Then fast forward it 17 years later to the now, to the present of the year 2017, where her previous professor is accused of sexual abuse from a former student. And this former student reaches out to Vanessa to seek really peace in herself. But when this student reaches out to Vanessa, it just tears Vanessa's world apart and makes her question everything, whether or not this affair with her professor was actually an affair based upon mutual love, or if he was taking advantage of her, especially because he was a person in power. The 10th story is Darling Rose Gold by Stephanie Warbell. This is another debut story of this author's, and it's released March 17th. This book just sounds so juicy because it reminds me so much of true stories that are equally frightening. And our main character, Rose, has been seriously ill for the first 18 years of her life, leading her to be wheelchair bound, her neighbors holding fundraisers to pay for her medical bills. However, it turns out that Rose's illnesses was fabricated by her mother, completely ruined her childhood, and Rose took a stand, put her mother in jail. Her mother only serves 5 years, and now she is being released from jail. She's free, and Rose still thinks there's a score to settle with her mother. The 11th story is I Want You to Know We're Still Here, a post-Holocaust memoir by Esther Safran Foer. This is one of my only non-fiction stories, I think, on my list. It's debuted to be released March 31st, and it just dictates Esther's life, where she was the child of parents that survived the Holocaust. It cost her family everything. She has no external family, no extended family, and she lived her whole childhood dealing with that, dealing with those traumas and those insecurities and those difficulties. But then she discovers that her father had a previous wife and daughter that were killed in the Holocaust. And so Esther decides to take it upon herself to journey to Ukraine to learn her father's past life and their story in order to consolidate everything that she feels like she missed. The 12th story is The Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. I can't wait. I haven't read any of Veronica Roth since The Divergent, especially because her other series had so much stuff going on. I just didn't want to deal with it. This book is released March 6th, and it just sounds so good. It talks about what happens after the Chosen Ones finish their journey, finish their end game and goal. This takes 10 years after 5 teens defeated an otherworldly enemy called the Dark One. It saved the world, put their world in peace. Every one of her companions moved on except for Sloane, one of the 5, who still has nightmares and a lot of trauma that she's been holding up to since she was a teenager. And apparently, all her stress is coming anew as she finds out that the Dark One that she stopped 10 years ago is actually not gone. The 13th book is The Beauty of Your Face by Seher Mustafa. This is released April 7th. It sounds like a tearjerker that's going to be so hard, but it also sounds so good. Afa is a daughter, our main character, of Palestinian immigrants. She's hiding from a radical alt-right school shooter. She is hiding in her classroom in her school, fearing for her life, and this fear journey takes her to forget everything that's happening in the current and diving into the memories of her past to find hope, to consolidate everything that's happened with her so far, and really just distance herself from the tragic things that she's dealing with right now. The 14th book is Love After Love by Ingrid Persaud. This is set to release April 14th, and it sounds so interesting. It's about a girl named Betty whose abusive husband dies. And in doing so, in order to make a living, in order to keep her house, she invites a colleague to move in to her place as a lodger. So her and her son and this lodger over time form an unconventional family until secrets start coming out and threaten their relationships. The 15th story is Death in Her Hands by Otessa Moshfegh. This is set to release April 21st. And here we have an unnamed protagonist. She's walking her dog in a forest and finds a note. It's a very cryptic note saying, "Her name was Magda. Nobody will ever know who killed her. It wasn't me. Here is her dead body." And this note plunges our protagonist into an obsession. She must figure out more about this Magda character, how she was died, who killed her, and it makes her start to lose grip on reality. If that doesn't sound interesting, then I don't know what to tell you. The 16th book. This one is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. This is set to release June 2nd, and it's quoted as being Phantom of the Opera meets Moulin Rouge, which sounds amazing because I love both stories, both musicals, so much. Essentially, it's a competition to discover the best magician, but this competition becomes sinister when contestants start to disappear one by one. 3 magicians join together to stop the danger before it comes for them, and it might be more than they can handle. The 17th story is A Better Bad Idea by Lori DeVore. This is pitched to be the end of the effing world, meeting Sadie, which Sadie was such a beloved book when it was debuted 2 years ago. I read it last year, absolutely loved it. So I'm super stoked because I also enjoyed the Netflix series, The End of the Effing World. So this takes place with our main character, Evelyn, when she burns down her home to protect her sisters. But now she must go on the run, things are gonna happen, it's gonna be intense, and maybe she should have thought more before, burning her house down. A Better Bad Idea is set to release on August 18th. The 18th story is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. This is another one I've talked about because I am so stoked. It sounds so good. It's set to release on September 3rd. It's a vampire story, and it's so good because it meshes with my little D&D loving heart, as our main character, Gabriel, is basically a paladin who has lost all ties with his deity. He's become broken. Essentially, 27 years ago from the story was the last sunrise. Now vampires walk out in fear because they don't fear the sun. And humanity is scattered, and our main character, Gabriel, is currently now imprisoned for the murder of the vampire king. He must tell the story of his life and reveal his discovery of the Grail, which is supposedly a legendary cup that could bring an end to the Eternal Night. And he's telling this story as he's imprisoned by the other vampires, and it just sounds so good because it talks about his journey to being this knight, slaying vampires, to losing all of his faith, and it just sounds so good. The 19th story is Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Jessie. This is set to release September 15th, and I loved her debut story, Homegoing, so much that I am sure I will love this story as well. Our main character, Gifty, is a neuroscientist researching reward-seeking behavior in mice and linking it to depression and addiction to unlock the mystery of her family. But her childhood faith gets in the way of her research because she hungers for it and its promise of salvation. And so it's going to open up a lot of doors. It's going to make her question not just science, but her faith and religion, and it just sounds so good. The 20th story, the last story that I have for these 2020 releases. I have more, but these are just the top 20, is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is set to release October 6th, and I can't wait. Every little snippet V.E. Schwab has released on her Instagram detailing this story just makes me so excited, and I just can't wait. It's pitched as a love story between a French girl and the devil over 300 years. This girl sells her soul to live forever, but now she's cursed to be forgotten by everyone she meets. So there we have 20 releases that I am so stoked for the year 2020. Please let me know in the comments down below which books are you excited for that's released this year, and did I mention any books that are on your list? What are you most excited for? I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you stick around by liking, giving a thumbs up to this video, subscribing, and what have you. I hope you guys do stick around, and I hope I see you guys again. And until next time, I love you. Bye!